The riot is over.
She's a
female, you are a female, you are a female, you are a female, you are a female.
Composing music for movies. Interesting. What are you working on now?
Theme for a thriller, a story of a murder. Not anything to get enthusiastic about.
Listen, I introduced you to Giovanni, the caretaker. Well, if there are any problems, he's...
Female.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back to pretend.
Really frightened, huh? This is nothing compared to the 12th reel, which of course you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, your final reel, that's such a mysterious secret.
Female.
Daylight cancels out the monsters.
Oh, please kill it! I've never been so afraid in my life. It's a spider there on the floor. Kill it! Kill it!
It's a cockroach. I tell you, I feel like this is a movie.
Child.
Female.
Ever since you started this job with Sandra, you're somebody else. I don't know you anymore. You see murder everywhere.
No, I never said I saw anything. I only suspect.
Please, huh? Child.
Tell me why the murders. I don't understand.
The answer is simple, Carlo. He knifed those girls to show that he wasn't scared.
This is Kurt Rector from House of Death, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues. It's episode 210, and this time we're heading back to Italy for Mario Bava's second movie, the Giallo, A Blade in the Dark.
Lamberto.
Did I say Mario?
You did.
Oh, dear. Well, that's...
Earlier you called Kevin Dillon Matt, or was that Eric?
That was Eric.
That was me.
Yeah, okay. You two are both off your game today.
Oh, shut up, Nathan.
Well, as you can see, the professionality continues at the Hysteria Continues. So, yes, as we mean to go on. I think it's possibly because we've all been self-medicating with a little bit of various substances, in my case, vodka. But yes, we are back with Lamberto Bava's A Blade in the Dark from 1983, and this is Joseph's pick. So, Joseph, are you looking forward to covering this one?
That's not a spider. That's a cockroach.
It's a spider.
It's a spider, Bruno.
Well, yes, and you may have noticed someone is missing. And it's not our dignity or our professionality. It's Nathan is unfortunately not with us at the moment due to some technical issues. So we're hoping he will be joining us at some point during the show. But if not, then we are Nathanless. But not for long, hopefully. So, yeah, but before we get on to that, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. So, I won't go to Nathan because they'll just be tumbleweeds. Eric, talking of tumbleweeds, what have you been watching?
Hey, how rude. Okay, well, the only real sort of horror thing I've watched since we last recorded is Phase 4. Now, I mentioned this one before. It was in our top 3 Nature Takes Revenge episodes that we did for Patreon. Phase 4 has just come out on Blu-ray from 101 Films. It's 2-disc edition. Disc 1 has Phase 4 and some extras, and the second disc has director Saul Bass's short films. So Phase 4 is one of my favorite Nature Takes Revenge movies because it's basically intelligent ants attempting to take over the world, but done in a small scale. It's basically a cast of 3 central characters is stuck in a research center in the middle of the Arizona desert, and the ants are sort of they're trying to kill them basically by doing.
Wow, this is very freaky, Eric.
What? Why?
My recently seen is a giant ant movie.
Okay.
So
ants
anyway,
are the theme of the day.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
I just love. I've always loved this film. I saw it on TV maybe in the late 80s, knowing nothing about it, and it freaked me out. I think the fact is that it's just weird and quirky, and it's often compared to Kubrick's 2001 in the way that it is slightly trippy, I suppose. It was made in 1974, and the great thing about this Blu-ray is it includes the original extended end sequence, which is this really bizarre montage of freaky images of like fingers coming out of people's foreheads and people buried up to their eyes in sand whilst various things crawl out of their heads, and there's a man with no face, and all this is done to this weird choral chanting, and it's just really, really freaky. Now, it was cut from the theatrical release and was only discovered in 2012, and this is its debut appearance on Blu-ray, and it makes the purchase worthwhile just for that alone if you have any interest in Phase 4. But yeah, it's one of the it's just a creepy movie. I love it, and highly recommended if you are a fan to pick up.
We were mentioned, like you said, we mentioned that on our top 3 our Nature Runs Amok films. That movie, I saw that when I was a kid, and that movie scared the crap out of me.
It scared the crap out of me too,
Yeah, I don't know if it would have the same, resonance today, but I haven't seen it in about 10 years. But yeah, I loved that film when I saw that when I was a child. It gave me nightmares.
You should check out the extended ending because it's available on YouTube. I think somebody just filmed it off a cinema screen, so it's not brilliant quality, but it'll give you an idea. It's just really freaky. It's completely surreal, but very.
Actually, now that you mention it, I may actually watch that again because it's been a long time since I've seen it. I'm actually interested in seeing it again.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I don't think. I think is it the one? Has it got the one with like the hand with ants coming out the middle of it?
Yeah, the poster art has the hand with the. I was going to say a snail. That's not right, Eric. An ant coming out of the middle of the hand. Because there is a scene in the film where they find a dead body and there's 3 holes in the palm of the hand, and then ants start crawling out of them, which is really icky and creepy. I don't like it.
Yes. Well, I kind of guess, I don't know why I was always put off. I think because I thought it looked like a bit of more of a sci-fi movie. Is it? It
is, I suppose, but it's quite art. Do you like 2001?
I'm trying to think. I saw it a long time ago. I find I'm a little bit, I don't know, a little bit hot and cold with those kind of sort of art house.
Appreciate, yes, like, no, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
I love it, but it's more the ambience of 2001 rather than, like, there's no spaceships, obviously, in Phase 4. I think you would like it. I mean, it's very trippy in places, so, and it's just eerie. It's not overtly graphic. But it just has an eerie ambience of just impending doom for the human characters. I think if you like something like Long Weekend,
okay,
has that same kind of vibe.
I like Long Weekend, so it's got that kind of sense of doom throughout it.
Yeah, and also this sort of sense of, are the ants really this intelligent? Are they really going to take over? Are the animals really this evil?
It feels sort of like hopeless almost, but not in a bad way.
No.
Almost like in a raw popcorn way, sort of. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only the theatrical version's only 83 minutes, so it's very short. So.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Eric. Anything else?
No, that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Joseph, you say you've seen an ant movie.
Well, yes. First of all, I jumped on the Tubi bandwagon. Everyone's telling me to get the Tubi app because they have every movie you can think of. And I got it, and they do have a lot of great stuff. And I saw something on there called It Came from the Desert, which is based apparently on this old computer game. So it's a giant ant movie. It's about giant ants versus motocross dude bros, I guess you'd call them. So I went into this thinking, okay, this is going to be like a Sharknado, Piranha 3D type film. And I guess it is in a way, but I was really shocked and surprised at how much I love the characters in this film because they're all so very, very likable. They kind of remind me a bit of like taking someone like Bill and Ted, who have this kind of innocence to them, and placing them in this kind of popcorn B movie scenario, with a lot of topless chicks and a lot of guys riding motorcycles and having a good time. And the two main leads, they're right out of, Wayne and Garth or Bill and Ted or something like that. I mean, they're so likable and they genuinely like one another as friends. And like when one's in danger, the other one like steps up and is like, okay, I got to go save my friend. So I was really, surprised at that. It's a movie that I don't really remember much about after seeing it, except that the effects were pretty decent for what it is. It's a lot of fun with people zipping around on motorcycles in caves and through the desert. And they happen upon all these research facilities where they explains the ants. It's just, we just discussed the Blob, and I talked about how the Blob gets, kind of over-explained here in the Blob. Here, the ants get over-explained as well, but, it's not trying to be scary or suspenseful like the Blob. It's trying to be kind of like, I guess just stupid and fun and silly. And, on that, I actually enjoyed this film. I was pleasantly surprised. I think the main takeaway is that, you can make a more recent movie, in 2018 or whenever this was released with likable characters. I mean, we were always talking about how movies today have all these characters who just seem to hate each other and you don't want to hang around them. But the two characters here, are actually all the characters here, I really like them. I was, so thumbs up for me for It Came from the Desert. It was on Tubi. It's free. Just a blind watch. I don't remember much about it now, but hey, I enjoyed it. So yeah, go check it out.
Cool.
How legitimate is Tubi?
It's free. It's completely free, completely legal. They have a lot of great movies. I mean, they do have commercials. But it's mostly just like one or two before the movie.
Cool. Excellent. Okay. Was there anything else, Joseph?
Well, actually, I started watching a few things, but I always get distracted. So I'll just save them for the next episode.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you. I've been. I don't know if you've been watching the Mark Commode series. Erik.
I've seen some of them and not all of them.
Yeah. Well, Mark Commode, if you don't know, is a UK film critic, and he's doing a series based on kind of genres of film. So
that's KROMOD, not like commode, like toilet.
Not like the toilet. No, it's Commode.
Yeah.
KEMOD.
I know the name, but I just don't know the guy.
But no, he kind of breaks it down. He's a big horror movie fan. I think his favorite movie is The Exorcist. But he's doing the kind of genres. So the one that we watched most recently was the heist movie. So he kind of breaks down what kind of makes the heist movie, and so we've mostly been watching heist movies, which isn't very horrific by any stretch. Although there was one, I can't remember the name of it now. There was a heist movie that with a haunted bank vault, and I can't remember the name of it now. But anyway, so I haven't watched a huge amount, but I did watch a couple of movies. I can't remember if did we discuss Underwater on on the last episode?
No, we didn't. No,
I thought we did. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, if I can't remember. God, it's.
I don't think we did.
Okay, if we did, well, please forgive us for discussing it again. But I won't go into a massive amount of detail. But I don't think you'd seen it, Erik, had you? And probably
I
last
hadn't.
time.
No, and I watched it this week as well.
So, I mean, essentially, I risk of repeating myself. It's kind of a giant monster movie, essentially underwater. So it's kind of like people have described it as kind of aliens underwater, but it's a kind of futuristic drilling kind of thing, kind of in this kind of big like space station, kind of essentially underwater, and they're drilling for minerals or some bunkum that they explains why they're down there. And there's an earthquake which kills most of the crew on this kind of drilling rig, apart from a small handful who try and get out, but they're kind of thwarted by this kind of whatever it is. The earthquakes kind of release this kind of kraken style, or what they call the Japanese monsters, the
kaiju.
Kaiju,
yeah.
Yes. So
Kaiju.
So they're trying. So first of all, they're being attacked by these kind of smaller, kind of alien style kind of facehugger types, and then these kind of humanoid underwater kind of monsters. But they're all kind of attached to this massive, great monster, which is very much kind of Cthulhu-esque. So it turns into kind of a bit of an H.P. Lovecraft esque film towards the end, which I liked. I mean, it's not going to win any awards. I mean, for originality, certainly. I mean, even down to the fact that all of the women in it run around in their underwear, but none of the men do. So it was almost like a direct, nothing's changed since 1979 with Sigourney Weaver in her tiny underwear in Alien. But it's well done. It's another one of the because we just discussed The Blob, the 1988 remake on the Patreon for this month, which was a flop at the cinema, and apparently Underwater was a flop as well. It didn't do very well at all. So, which is a shame because it is a passably entertaining horror movie, and it looks great. But it's kind of once you watched it, it's one of those films that because it doesn't really do anything new, it kind of just kind of fade from the memory rather quickly. But yeah, I'm interested, Erik. What are your thoughts?
Is this the one with Kristen Stewart?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I do want to see it.
It was made about, I mean, it looked like it sat on the shelf for a little while, I think, because I think it was made in 2017, or I might be wrong on that. But what
no, I think that's right. I think it's 2017 it was shot, yeah.
But it didn't, I mean, it must have sat on the shelf for a couple of years, wasn't it, presumably?
Yeah.
So what did you think, Erik?
I really liked it. Now, I've said this before, I'm a big fan of sci-fi, horror, big studio productions like this, especially, well, not especially, but even the ones that are, quote, flawed and tend to tank the box office and get really bad reviews. You know, things like Virus, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis from 1999, which she hates, but I actually quite like. And, you know, Event Horizon and any of those knockoffs like that. So I really enjoyed Underwater. As you said, it doesn't do anything new, and its plot is extraordinarily linear in that there's no subplots to it, and there's no surprises or twists to it. It just plays out as you would expect. But, you know, I thought it was very entertaining. And Kristen Stewart, she's a very dour presence in it, but I do like her cropped haircut. She reminded me of the hero stroke villain of Switchblade Romance with the way she looked. But no, I found it hugely enjoyable, but I kind of thought I would when I read the reviews of the film and people were saying, you know, it's kind of by the numbers, but it's okay. I thought, okay, well, that's kind of something I might like. And I did. It's, you know, the special effects are great. And the monsters, you only see them very fleetingly, but it did remind me of, I suppose, The Descent in that way, the smaller humanoid type monsters that they encounter. It has a Descent type vibe, I suppose, with these people trapped, you know, underground and being menaced by, well, they're not extraterrestrial, they're kind of under-terrestrial. I don't know how you would describe them. But yeah.
Terrestrial?
Terrestrial, yes.
Yeah.
Sub-terrestrial. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was really, I won't say I was really surprised, but I mean, I knew I would kind of like this type of film. It's kind of up my alley, to quote Nathan. So yeah, thumbs up from me. But it is hugely generic, though.
Yeah, well, no, yes. I mean, Joseph, I can't remember if we said you haven't seen it, have you?
No, I saw I saw a trailer for it, and I thought it looked really good, and I saw that it had Kristen Stewart. Eric was saying she's so dour in this film, and what's weird is like a lot of the critics are talking about how she's fun and perky in this film. Maybe they saw a different film. Yeah.
Well, I think she's fun and perky for Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. No, there you go. Okay.
Well, now the background of her character is that her fiance or something died in a diving accident maybe shortly before the film begins, and that's why she's a bit.
I mean, she's good in it, but it's yeah.
She is good. Yeah.
I mean,
she has kind of that feisty Sigourney Weaver-ish vibe to her. Yeah.
And she's in her pants for most of the movie, isn't she?
Yes, yeah.
But again, my memory fails me. I know we talked, because the trouble is we talk on Messenger all the time, often about what we've been watching, so sometimes memory does play tricks. But the other movie that I saw that Erik reminded me, which was the small budget version of Underwater in some ways, was the Irish monster movie Sea Fever. About and again, I may have mentioned this last episode, so if I did, please forgive me, but it was about a fishing vessel that goes out with a scientist on board to investigate. Was looking for basically doing some kind of experiments out to sea on sea creatures, and they stumble into an area where they're not supposed to go because they're told there's some bunkum about why they can't go there, but they go there because that's where the fish are. And there's this giant monster under the water which kind of releases these kind of stingers, I kind of guess, onto the boat. And again, another virus movie. Funny enough, we keep on watching these, but the crew start getting infected one by one by this kind of virus, which turns them either homicidal or it kind of kills them. In one very gory special effect, there's they can tell there's kind of reminiscent of The Thing, where they can do a test to see if they've been infected, and they shine lights into eyes, and they can see these kind of nematodes, these little worms inside their eyeballs, so they know if they've been affected. And one of the early victims, his eyeballs explode quite sort of gorily. So it's quite an entertaining little movie. It's a kind of small scale, but not like really low budget, but kind of mid-budget kind of monster movie, but done in a kind of British Irish kind of way that it's a bit slightly kitchen sinky. Whereas an American movie would go all out, like I say, like Jamie Lee Curtis' Virus or something, or Underwater. But it's an entertaining watch. It's quite a sort of newish movie. So Erik, being our resident Irishman,
yeah, and I wasn't aware of it until you guys mentioned it in the messenger messages that we send during the week. I actually know the director ish. I mean, she worked for the same company as me for a while. She was a director of our equivalent of Coronation Street or Days of Our Lives for you guys in the States. So I hadn't heard of it. Now, it was due to open theatrically Friday of this week. over here in Ireland, but obviously that is not happening now, so it's gone straight to streaming. So I will, I'm going to have to watch it, because when I hear the words Irish horror movie, the last thing I think of is people's eyes exploding. I think of the kitchen sinky side of things. So I'm intrigued now.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's worth a watch. I felt it kind of fizzled out by the end. It didn't. But it's worth a watch. Yeah, definitely. So if you can imagine, it's kind of like Event Horizon on a fishing boat.
And people going, Tora Laura, pass me them potatoes.
It's that kind of thing, yes. So, okay. Well, I guess that's all I've recently seen, because we still have no Nathan, so we don't know what he's been watching. But that means that Erik is a female. And
no, I'm not a female.
Well...
Oh. A blade in the dark is terror and intrigue at its finest, as one man must uncover the secrets behind the quiet darkness of murder. Bruno is a young composer renting a secluded villa in hopes of completing a movie score for his girlfriend. That's not quite true there. Bruno discovers a strange message on his recorder. A knife out of place, a girl hiding in his closet, drops of blood in his bathroom, and the gardener dragging a large sack across the lawn. Just as quickly as these things occur, they all mysteriously disappear into the stillness of the night. But as the truth seeps out, Bruno is caught in the black quicksand of terror, comes face to face to the horrors of the night. Just as the night settles into blackness, a blade in the dark rips open blood-curdling terror. And that was from the 1986 Lightning video release of A Blade in the Dark. So, A Blade in the Dark, yeah, I love this movie, and having watched it again this week after a few years, I was struck by just how hilarious this film is. And I don't think it was intentional from Lamberto. I love how this Bruno character, he always seems to be just one step away from danger without even knowing it. I mean, he spends the whole movie just kind of wandering around, piecing together clues without even realizing he's trying to solve a mystery. And then he's in this huge palace, this villa, and it's under constant foot traffic from some of the most insane characters I've had the pleasure to watch. First, you have Sandra with the deviated septum. She's like, "Hi, Bruno, I want you to score my movie." And then you have, Tony Rendino with a obvious mental affliction. Spoiler there. Katya, who for some reason likes to just hide in people's closets. I don't know why. And then you have Bruno's worrisome girlfriend Julia, who spends most of her scenes about to catch a flight to some exotic modeling shoot or an audition. And what little precious minutes she has to spare, she uses them to scold Bruno for just, I guess, simply existing. I think Lamberto Bava, he seems to have copied a page or two from his father's book in regards to style, but it seems like maybe he was asleep during class, or he got his certificate of completion from a Cracker Jack box. I mean, the film looks great, but it also has this Skid Row feel to it that gives the younger Bava his own sense of, I guess it's artistic approach. I love the X-Acto knife as a weapon, and those POV shots and how it's kind of framed as, I guess you'd call it a phallic symbol, in contrast with the killer's, fractured, Norman Bates-ish psychosis. I think that's an excellent touch. And that bathroom attack is really quite unreal, isn't it?
It's, especially for what supposedly was supposed to originally be a TV movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I love the dialogue here, because you have characters like Sandra and Bruno sitting around talking about the movie they're making. It's so asinine, and she's like, they're always telling each other things they already know. It's like Sandra saying, "This is nothing like the 12th reel," which of course you haven't seen yet. And he's like, "Your movie's so mysterious." I mean, the entire film is like that. I mean, it's so hilarious. I think I'd call it A Blade in the Dark a giallo more than once, and probably often, but watching it again this week, I don't really think it's a giallo in the strictest sense. It really feels more like just a dumb, pure, out-and-out slasher film to me. One of the cheesier ones at that. It kind of leans on some of the 70s kind of yellow structure, but it mostly just revels in that sort of pre-neon, pre-giant hair purgatory that was 1983. And it's badly dubbed. The plotting is all over the place and nonsensical. And we've seen this sort of psycho structure, character having dissociative identity disorder. But the way it's handled here, it's all very fun. It's harmless. A thumbs up. It's not a great movie. But it's very zany. It's very entertaining, to the point of absurdity. So, a thumbs up from me. But let's hear from our very own female, the one and only, Justin. Well,
how rude.
Erik, you ruined my joke.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were going to. I assumed you were coming over to me, so I tried to preempt you.
No, it was Justin.
Well, I shall
You are
brush
a female.
over that. I shall brush over that. But yeah, Blades in the Dark is a lot of zany fun. I mean, if you're a fan of the kind of more ridiculous kind of Jali, then this one's for you. Although it's funny because it's almost like Lamberto Bava is kind of doing everything in his power to make it look as bland as possible, in complete opposite to his father's kind of more Baroque, celebrated kind of Baroque works, or the Dario Argento's sort of neon lit films like Suspiria.
Everything is so beige here.
It's so beige. I mean, it's the whole idea, the whole notion of it is, I mean, ridiculous from start to finish. You've got this composer, is Andrea Occhipinti. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but even he's wearing this horrible beige chinos and this chunky knitwear, which I kind of guess was very early 80s look. But this idea that they've hired this massive mansion just for him to score this low budget horror movie is completely ridiculous in itself. But the mansion itself is very unlike what you imagine like an Italian mansion to be. Everything is beige. It looks like it's just been built and they haven't had the decorators in. It's just kind of beige the whole way through. So it's very strange that it seems like he's doing that on purpose. So to say I'm my own person and not the son of Mario Bava. So, but I mean, everything is just kind of is so ridiculous. I mean, it starts off with the scene where you're a female with the three little boys, including Fabio. What's his name?
Giovanni Frezza.
The Giovanni Frezza, that's it. Who was well-known face in a number of horror movies like Demons and House by the Cemetery. I think that the Italian horror movies from that time are usually dubbed by someone like sounding like Lisa Simpson in The Simpsons. But here it starts with these three little boys. The two boys teasing Giovanni to go downstairs into the basement, and he goes downstairs, and then this tennis ball comes flying up bloodied onto the wall, or we find out later. And of course it's a film within a film, as Joseph has mentioned. It's been directed by this woman Sandra, who again is, I'm trying to think, there probably were some Italian genre movies directed by women at the time, but none of them come to mind. So that in itself is kind of a bit odd. But it did make me laugh when she was, this kind of ridiculous scene of these three little boys and this tennis ball flying up and then Bruno saying to Sandra, "It scared me even more this time watching it." You know, it's kind of this notion that this is going to be the most terrifying movie ever made. And you've got all these kind of red herrings. You've got like the creepy gardener with the shears, acting very much like what's his name in Pieces, sort of and
Willard.
Willard, yes.
It's kind of the Alex Sykes character from Prom Night.
Exactly. Yeah. It's because the film was made, and certainly in the early 80s. I mean, we've covered quite a few movies like Absurd and Anthropophagus, and Dario Argento's Tenebrae as well, which was made. Was released the year before, which Lamberto Bava was worked on, and so the film very much, it feels like he's aping Tenebrae, and certainly in the scene, the first kill, where the girl who likes hiding in closets for no reason and then decides to leave, is killed by the killer outside with this kind of box cutter. It's very much that reminded me explicitly of Tenebrae, of the scene with the girl being chased around the killer's house and gardens. But I mean, everything is gloriously dumb. I mean, we haven't revealed who the killer is, but I'm sure we will do shortly. But the killer walks around in sensible heels, like a dowdy Michael Myers, like a sort of he's a kind of like a secretary and shuffling so slowly around the house with this massive blade, and these very sensible heels and kind of schoolmom kind of sort of dress sense, I kind of guess. So I'm surprised they can actually catch anyone, because they're sort of literally moving at a snail's pace around. And even you get to the point where you've got these red herrings where you have or misdirections where you have the main character's girlfriend walks around in exactly the same manner to surprise Sandra and the composer. So yeah, all in all, it's gloriously stupid. Even more so, actually, funny enough, because Andrea Angelopinti was in Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper the year before, which of course had that wonderfully stupid sounding killer sounding like Donald Duck. And funnily enough, this film, the killer sounds like Kermit the Frog, I thought. I don't know if you guys caught that. But it's kind of like this kind of strange Kermit the Frog style.
Geez, I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah, it's kind of so strange. So I did half expect to see Miss Piggy come flying out. And you've got these models turn up, don't you? Like after the first girl's killed, the other one, another model turns up and says, "Oh, I sometimes come use the swimming pool, and do you want to take my picture?" It's just kind of it's wonderfully stupid.
I love how it's like every time he tries to get some work done, someone's knocking on the door and say, "Hey, I come here from time to time." He has to talk to like all these people. How's he going to get any work done?
Well, I know. And then he's got his Sandra, the film's director, phoning up and making prank calls to him. Does she want him to finish this film or not?
Yeah, I love how convenient it is that the realtor is the killer.
Yes.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah.
So, anyway, on to that other female, Erik.
I am not a female. Just to clarify that. If anyone's a female, it's Justin. He's the one who dresses up in drag all the time.
Oh, for goodness sake, that's once.
Oh, Justin, did you know that Kasia went on to be in RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12? She's Heidi N. Closet.
Oh, Erik, is that your joke of the week?
No, my joke of the week's even better. I love A Blade in the Dark, and as Justin was saying, it reminds me a lot of Tenebrae from the year before. I suppose it's just the fact that it's a giallo stroke slasher set in this kind of modern Italian setting. I suppose the sort of the modern house location reminds me a bit of Tenebrae, and that scene where particularly I think it's the first victim is, as Justin was saying, menaced by being chased around the gardens and that by the killer in the librarian getup. But the film is, like as Joseph was saying, it's utterly ludicrous. It opens with Giovanni Frezza speaking, as was the norm for him in every single movie he appeared in. He has a squeaky middle-aged woman's voice who's trying to pretend she's a 10-year-old boy. And I just love that early 80s Italian nonsense vibe. He was the poster boy, actually, for this sort of bygone age of really ludicrous dubbing. The other film it kind of reminded me of, and this is kind of an obvious one, especially when the killer is revealed, is Dressed to Kill. And both of them, I suppose, are quite technical films, which have these sudden bursts of uber violence. I think Dressed to Kill is obviously a better made film, but I do think that A Blade in the Dark is equally as entertaining. It drags on maybe a little bit too long, and Justin was alluding there that it originally was made as I think a 4-part TV series, so that's why it's sort of 106 minutes when maybe it could do with being a tight 90 minutes long, but it's littered with those oddball characters, as you say. Katia, who appears in the cupboard for no apparent reason and conveniently leaves her diary behind, which she doesn't write factually in her diary. She writes cryptically in her diary about, mysterious things that are happening. So it's just a typical giallo device. And when whispers are picked up on the recording equipment, again, they're cryptic. They don't actually say anything.
Sorry, Erik. I love how the characters talk to one another in tones, in speech patterns that they already know. But when it comes to the clues, or it comes to stuff like the diary, you're fucked. You're not getting any information.
No, you're just getting the slightest little bit of, something weird is going on, but not going to write what it is. Katia is the worst victim ever for running away. She kind of just shuffles, and then she stops for ages in these empty rooms and has a look around as if she's one of the real estate agents on Homes Under the Hammer. and then she decides to hide behind some wire mesh where she can easily be seen. It's like the worst hiding place ever. I think in the movie production as the backdrop is a great device, and it gives us that opportunity to see Giovanni Frezza at the end of the film in a blonde wig with plaits, which is just deliciously silly. Now, a few other things that stick out to me. Obviously, you mentioned this at the start, Joseph. That's not a spider; it's a cockroach. And then it cuts to a close-up of a spider, and I'm like,
yeah,
what? For a modern house, like even for 1983, the wallpaper in the bathroom is hideous. It's got this dreadful floral pattern. That's definitely not 1983. I don't know what. I mean, I know it looks like the house is in the middle of a refurb, but maybe that explains it. I don't know. One of the things that I'm like, a lot of these characters have obviously met the character Linda, in the past. Did they not twig that it's the same person as the real estate agent? Did they not notice it's a man in drag?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly Miss Vanjie. He's a man with a wig on.
And it's like Sandra gets on the phone. She's like, Linda, I'm so sorry, Linda. She obviously knows who this person is. I mean, and she obviously put Bruno in the house. I mean, couldn't she say, hey, look, we're making a movie about this guy I know who thinks he's a woman, and he's your real estate agent. He may be killing women around here, so just kind of watch your back there, Bruno.
Yeah, and is it really so traumatic to have to go and get a tennis ball out of a basement that would turn you into a killer?
Yeah. Well, I think this psychosis is triggered by being called a female. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm bullied all the time on this podcast, and I haven't killed anyone yet
that we know of.
That we know of.
I did like. Sorry, I was going to say, just to remind me of the tennis ball, the kind of ridiculous kind of red herrings with Bruno's girlfriend had a tennis ball on her bed, on the bed under the thing, and he's going, "Why have you got this?" And she said, "Don't you remember we met playing tennis?"
I know, it's so ridiculous.
Ciao.
Yeah. I love that Bruno is this acclaimed movie composer, and yet all we hear him play is that one riff over and over again. He's totally a one-trick pony. He probably scored Don't Go in the Woods, I'd say.
There's the scene. He's like, what are you working on now? He's like, theme for a thriller. Nothing to get too excited about. You must be talking about Blade in the Dark.
But I mean, as you were saying, there's so many people keep interrupting him and visiting the house for no apparent reason that he has no time to work on further elements to his score. So maybe that explains why. And I think you mentioned this, Joseph, that it was kind of breaking up for me at the time. I was having technical issues, so forgive me if you said this, but the use of the knife as a phallic metaphor, because every time he sees a woman, the knife extends.
Yeah,
and then once he's killed somebody, it retracts. It's like ooh misses. I mean, you've said this before in the past, Joseph, that Mario Bava is the better craftsman, but Lamberto Bava does make great movies. I mean, they're not great art by any stretch of the imagination, but
Papa's a filmmaker. The son is just a movie maker.
I know, and I mean, we did. Is it called You'll Die at Midnight? We did recently.
Yes,
which I had. That was my first time watching it, and I loved it. And I love Demons 1 and 2. I think Macabre is great. Monster Shark is kind of good. He's got some great movies in his catalogue, and this is one of them. A Blade in the Dark. Yeah, I love it. Great choice.
He's got this very popcorny aesthetic to him that his father lacks. His father's more serious in tone.
Yeah.
Because I think we covered and we took photos of Goya, didn't we, or Joya?
We haven't.
That's Delirium.
We have.
Yeah, we covered that. I think. Yeah, we covered that at the same time as You'll Die at Midnight, I think, didn't we? It's
just under a different title. That's right. Yeah.
I really like Body Puzzle as well. That's
that's good.
Yeah. So
that was 91, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
91 or 92. Yeah.
But that'd be a good one to cover because that has the fantastic scene where the killer hides in the chest freezer, just waiting for someone to come along.
I love that.
Just on the off chance that his intended victim will wander past.
I'll just hide myself in his airtight container.
Yes. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, let's say, I remember watching, the only one I really hated of his was Graveyard Disturbance. And when I saw...
I've seen it, and I don't remember hating it. I remember it being kind of bland, but I'd like to revisit it.
I think it's
I don't remember that movie at all, actually.
I think I saw it because I saw it way back, probably in the late 80s, and quite soon after it came out on video. And I was expecting I was thinking, God, another zombie flesh eaters or another something, gory zombie movie, and it was anything but. But I'd probably appreciate it a lot more now that I have a taste for his, the wackiness of it. Yeah. Because Macabre is his first film was more of an art house horror film, wasn't it? In some ways, it was more of a serious. In inverted commas, kind of study of mental decline, wasn't it? Like a kind of play on Repulsion, Polanski's Repulsion, that type of thing. But with this, whether or not he was just a director for hire, whether or not this probably wasn't a passion project of his, I don't know. But obviously the Giallo, the Gialli by this point was, they've always been sort of ridiculous, and that's part of their appeal. But as we talked about a little bit earlier, saying, and Joseph was sort of saying about the how it plays out more like a slasher movie in some ways, or certainly the violence in it is more slasher movie-esque, isn't it? It's quite protracted, actually, the scenes of violence. More, I think, very much, again, probably inspired by Argento as Tenebrae. But that in itself was kind of inspired by, I think, by the slasher movie that was playing out, in American screens at the time. And of course, it was in Italy, the slasher movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th were all big hits there as well. So it's no great surprise that, the Italians have always been very adept at taking on American genres, and making them their own. Like obviously Lucio Fulci was Zombie Flesh Eaters, and all the zombie rip-offs, and all of the kind of the Mad Max rip-offs, and all those kind of things that the Italians have kind of made their own. So so it's kind of weird mixture, but it definitely has that kind of lunacy that we love so much about the Giallo, that even the most ridiculous American slashers wouldn't probably have tried to go down this route, I wouldn't have thought. But anything else left to say? I mean, apart from obviously the other thing where we talked about the kind of the killers is kind of, I don't know if he's transsexual or transvestite or what. I mean, obviously it doesn't play as well for a modern audience in so much that this kind of
no,
but are we meant to think the only reason that he's become he dresses a woman is because he was called a female when he was 10 years old? Is that the only?
Yeah,
that's what it implies.
Yeah, he was just bullied and it just stuck, I guess.
So let that be a warning to you.
Cassandra says we only used who you are as a basis, and I wrote the rest on my own. I'm wondering, did he actually go into the basement as a kid, or is this something she added? I don't know.
Well, that was part of the film, wasn't it? I mean, it was. Yeah. So, it's just very strange, and also why this inspired her, this movie. But we don't actually know what the rest of the movie was about, do we? Really?
No.
We've got no idea what the movie was about at all.
I mean, her final reel is such a mysterious secret.
Well, what's the bloody tennis ball? I wonder what happened down in the basement.
Well, yes, and also why? What kind of person what film director?
He auditioned for The House by the Cemetery.
Yes,
yeah.
But what kind of film director would not let their composer watch the final reel?
I know.
What's that gonna achieve? Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Jerry Goldsmith.
Scene, but you don't get to see it. But it's not like he's going to get to write anything anyway, because somebody's going to knock on the door in 5 minutes.
Well, it could have been leaked on Twitter if somebody had seen the final reel.
Yeah.
And I thought it was hilarious. Sorry, I
was just going to say, there's this. I love the scene where Sandra. I think it's early in the film. Where Sandra is sitting down with Bruno, and he says something like, "Where do you get your crazy ideas for these movies?" And then she stands up and gives this whole monologue about the nature of fear.
Yeah,
and Bruno's like, "Oh God, sorry, I asked." He has a look on his face. She's like, "Maybe daytime cancels out the monsters."
It's so fun. It's so ridiculous.
She probably would have had a PowerPoint presentation if it had been 20 years later.
But so that whole thing with his girlfriend Julia, who is this actress who for no good reason, when he finds out that she'd kind of skipped on the play that she was supposed to be in, doesn't serve the plot at all, does it? Really?
No, and she says it's about female homosexuality.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a kids' play or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they spend the whole movie just arguing with one another. It just has nothing to do with what's going on at all.
And that scene where they, when Sandra and Bruno down in the basement and they hear someone clip-clopping in high heel, well, not sensible shoes, so around upstairs, and it turns out to be Julia, the girlfriend, who is, like I said before, is kind of walking around exactly like the killer does in like slow motion, like a Michael Jackson moonwalk in Sensible Slingbacks, and it's for no good reason at all, and also hiding behind curtains with a massive knife as well. It's just very, very daft, but it's kind of
asinine. It is, but
it is very. I mean, we're ripping on it, but we kind of it's the joy of it is kind of this, but I'm sure there must have been some tongues in cheeks when they were making this.
It's pure Lamberto Bava.
But of course, but also they said about the killer having this, because it sets it up. You kind of think it's going to be one of the women involved in it. Probably. I think you're kind of meant to think it's Sandra, aren't you? Meant to think it's the film director probably who's the killer, because it's set up all the way through that it's a woman doing the killing. But as it goes on, the killer's, the voice sounds like Kermit the Frog, doesn't it? Which is so daft. It kind of tips its hat, but the ending. But it's surprising actually. The ending, it does kind of. You kind of think Julia, although she's not particularly. I wouldn't say I kind of liked her character very much because she's a bit. Well, she's kind of a little bit petulant, isn't she, throughout it all? But she gets. There's that scene, isn't there, where the Bruno and the killer face off, but Julia gets stabbed from behind with this massive great knife, which goes, and I did like that misdirection where the wig flies off. The killer's wig flies off, and he thinks the killer's dead, but in fact the wig's just on the floor, around the side, around a corner of a doorway, and he kind of pops up. But I mean, obviously, and also the killer, of course, is played by what's his name? Name escapes me.
Michele Soavi.
Michele Soavi, of course, who directed Stage Fright a few years later, and was also worked on Tenebrae, and was kind of a bit of a protege of Dario Argento, and I think he was the second unit director on this as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's quite an accomplished director in and of himself. Probably even better than Lamberto Bava, honestly.
And an actor. He's in Absurd as well. And in the really, really dirty, naughty Caligula, the Untold Story, where he gets a hand job in that film.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did wonder how he managed to. He must have spent loads of time with nail varnish remover, because putting a wig on is quite easy and sort of lipstick, but nail varnish it's quite difficult to put that on and take it off.
You'd know.
Oh, Erik.
Good one, Erik.
You're a female.
It's like he's going around killing dressed in drag, and it's like that scene in Miss Doubtfire where he has to take all the makeup off.
Okay, well, how about some background? What have you got for us, Joseph?
The film was written by the husband and wife writing team of Dardano Sacchetti and Eliza Briganti. Bava and Sacchetti recalled their collaboration being rather difficult. The film was initially commissioned to be made for Italian television by producer Mino Loi and would have originally aired in 4 30-minute segments. Bava had mentioned that his intention was to have a gruesome murder at the end of each of these segments. When the film was presented to the censors, it was found to be too gory. Rather than edit, the producers instructed Bava to cut the film into a single feature. This led to the 16mm footage being brought to 35 for theatrical distribution. Producer Luciano Martino provided his villa as a location for filming. Wow, he owned that. The film was released 3 times on DVD in the States. The first time in 2001 by Anchor Bay Entertainment. The company subsequently re-released it in 2003 on a double feature DVD print. The third DVD release came from Blue Underground in 2007. On Blu-ray, the film was released for the first time by 88 Films on August 23rd of 2015. And actually, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of background information on this film, so that's really all I have.
Okay, well, thank you, Joseph. What about you, Erik?
Yeah, I couldn't find a huge amount either. My as is the norm for me at the moment, my Blu-ray of Blade in the Dark is back in Dublin, and I am in the UK. So I just found that there was an interview with Lamberto Bava online where he states that this is one of his favorite films. He says, "The film for me was like a son. I loved it so much." So he obviously has a lot of fondness for A Blade in the Dark. Bava had been the assistant director for Argento on Tenebrae and Inferno, so it probably explains the sort of the Tenebrae-like comparisons I suppose we've been giving the film. You mentioned that the leading man Andrea Occhipinti had been in The New York Ripper, but he also went on to be in Conquest for Lucio Fulci, which is this deliriously silly, I suppose, sword and sorcery type movie that Fulci made in 1983. He went on then to move more into film production in the 1990s. Annie Papa, who the wonderfully named actress who plays Sandra with the deviated septum, apparently. She had been in Sergio Martino's movie The Great Alligator from 1979. And Fabiola Toledo, who played Angela, she was also in the filthy Caligula, The Untold Story from 1982, which is a Joe D'Amato movie. And as I said, that also had Michele Soave in a small role where he gets a hand job. Glamour, eh? She also went on to be in...
Why do you keep mentioning this hand job scene?
Because it's just so weird that like this fairly mainstream director was in a movie where he gets... Now, you don't see his knob. It's just underneath his, whatever you call that Roman skirt thing. And Fabiola, the woman who played Angela, Fabiola Toledo, she went on to be in Demons, where she played Carmen. So I had to look up who Carmen was, and she was actually one of Bobby Rhodes's ladies in the cinema in the first Demons.
You heard it from Erik, everyone. You heard it from everyone. You don't see his knob.
You don't see his knob in Caligula. You do see lots of other people's knobs, though. But that's another story. Maybe I'll pick it for Patreon sometime. Valeria Cavalli, who plays Katya, she went on to appear opposite Mark Gregory from Bronx Warriors fame in Thunder, which is kind of a First Blood rip-off Italian style, and she was also in Fulci's New Gladiators, which was one of the many post-apocalyptic movies that the Italians were churning out at the time. And then later on she went on to appear in Mother of Tears, which is Argento's hilarious third entry into the Three Mothers trilogy. Gosh, that's a tongue twister. Let's see, Laura Lamberti, who plays Julia, she was the lead.
Yeah.
She went on to be the lead in Enigma, which
mention her, Eric. Mention.
Oh, did
her,
you? Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I'm asking you to mention her because remember what we talked about with her age.
Oh yes, because it says on IMDb she was born in 1967, which would have made her probably 15/16 when she was making this film, which cannot be true because there is no way she is a teenager. So I'm thinking it's probably 1957, probably the mean. But she is the niece of Klaus Kinski, which means she's the cousin of Natasha Kinski. So there we go. She played the lead role in Fulci's Enigma, which is kind of a Patrick ripoff about a woman in a coma who is using her psychic energy to get revenge on her tormentors. And that's about it. Oh, the Croatian actor Stanko Molnar, who plays Giovanni. Now, this is probably a reference only I'll get, but I think he looks very like Steve Jansen, who's the drummer with new romantic band Japan, but nobody else will understand that reference.
I know Japan.
Okay, well, there you go. He looks like the drummer. But he was also in Macabre for Lamberto Bava before this. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you. What about you, Nathan? What have you got for us?
Nothing.
So, well, thank you. Thank you.
No. Kermit the Frog.
No. So, you've covered most of. I've got one thing I would mention. Well, a couple of things actually. There was Fabiola Toledo was a Spanish actress, which you mentioned. She was in Demons, but she was actually born in the Canary Islands, where I live currently. So,
Lanzarote, or
I don't know. I couldn't find out. It just says she was born in the Canary Islands and lived here until she was 16. So, but I don't know. I'm not sure which one it was. But
which island?
Yeah. But the only other thing I've got, a little tidbit, was Marco Vivio was one of the little boys in the beginning who torments Giovanni. He apparently played Tommy in Demons 2 a few years later, and he did the Italian dubbing on one of the characters in Final Destination from the year 2000. So just a little tidbit. But because I'm sure I read somewhere that Lamberto Bava wasn't a great fan of horror slasher movies. He preferred more fantasy style films. So, and I'm sure I read somewhere that he didn't want to be making kind of gialli or kind of gory slashers, but he did make them, and he was very good at making them. Certainly very entertaining movies. I mean, they're not great art, but they are very entertaining. So it's kind of surprising actually how violent this film actually was, wasn't it? Because say the murder sequence in the bathroom is particularly violent. The murderer Sandra, the film director, who gets strangled with kind of reels of her own film, which kind of sort of was strange poetic justice. Well, not justice because she didn't really deserve it, but it was kind of like the method of murder was certainly wasn't as gory. But some of the other scenes in it were particularly violent. I did like the scene where I can't remember if it was Julia, but when she comes, or was it Sandra, when she comes down and the gardener has been bashed over the head with a wrench, and he just kind of pops up like a jack-in-the-box covered in blood from under the hole in the floor. Just kind of reminded me of a similar scene in Anthropophagus when they're down in the basement and that woman jumps out of that vat covered in blood or wine or whatever it was for no good reason. But there seems to be a lot of that with Lamberto Bava's films, people jumping out for no reason than for shock effect. But it makes it even more gloriously silly. So, I think that's everything that I've got on this movie. So obviously we will not be able to go, I'm sure Nathan would have given us all the technical details and background.
Yeah, he wrote a book on Blade in the Dark a couple years back that got New York Times bestseller.
Yes, but if you're missing Nathan, then we will be announcing at the end of the show the next episode is a Nathan pick. So, okay, well, before we get on to Eric's Joke of the Week, let's find out what our dear listeners thought of A Blade in the Dark. What was the consensus, Joseph?
Well, out of a fairly respectable 80 votes, 97% of those listeners enjoyed A Blade in the Dark. So there was only a 3% outlier there. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Our listener of the week is, cue sound effects, West Ray from Facebook, and he writes, "One of my earliest movie memories was of this film, and it truly terrified me. For years, I remembered being scared of the scene with the ball and the staircase, but as I got older, I couldn't remember what movie it was that I had watched all those years ago. I was ecstatic many years later when I picked up the DVD for what I thought was a blind purchase, only to have all those memories of being freaked out of the stairway scene come flooding back to me. The movie isn't perfect, but it'll always hold a special place in my heart for giving me nightmares at such a tender age." That was from Wes Ray. Thank you, Wes. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Our email is info or feedback at thehysteriacontinues.net.
Excellent. Okay, yes, and we'd love to hear back from you. We've got some feedback coming up, actually. We had a little flurry, which is nice. But before we get that, I'm afraid I'm duty-bound to do this.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
The girl who appears in the closet in the film dies fairly quickly, considering that she has 9 lives. I mean, she is a cat, yeah? Did that joke leave you feline happy? You're welcome.
He's a cat.
Oh, Eric.
Oh.
I do wish I'd...
That was as good as your blob joke.
Actually, the blob joke was actually quite funny.
Yeah, it was really good. So if you're not a Patreon member and you want to hear Eric's joke, it'll only cost you $1.
Exactly. And it's $1 you'll never get back, but anyway. So, well, thank you, Erik, for that.
You're welcome.
Finely crafted piece of humour. Okay, so we do have some feedback. So who would like to go first?
I have some.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. This says, "Hello, Podfathers. Jay here. Your Scream 3 show was every bit as fun as I expected. Looking forward to your take on Scream 4 whenever that happens. I have a feeling it will. The Hysteria Continues Film Festival was super fun. I listened to your commentaries on Madman, The Initiation, Graduation Day, Blood Theater, and finally, Eyeball, my favorite. I was disappointed to realize that my version of Pieces is not the one you gents did a commentary for. Looks like I may have to acquire a second copy for my collection. It's especially nice during these times to be able to watch a favorite movie with friends, even though they may be friends I've never actually met in person. I'm pretty sure I speak for all your listeners when I say thanks for all the great content. Keep up the great work, and we love y'all. That's from Jay Bullington again, producer and co-host of Have You Seen This One, a.k.a. Histo. That's haveyouseenthis.com. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
okay, I have one here.
Okay.
This is from, guess who this is from?
Is it
Simon Logan? He says, hey guys, sorry for the lack of contact recently, but a heavy workload, getting back into writing, the coronavirus craziness, and the arrival of an 8-week-old puppy earlier in the year have all conspired to seriously limit my time for sending you feedback and emails. But just to let you know, I've still been listening whenever I can to both your regular podcast and the Patreon freebies, and I'm enjoying them much as ever. You probably don't need me to be keeping in touch anyway, given how much feedback you have to wade through these days. Funny he knew. Anyway, after you mentioned in a recent episode that you hadn't been getting as many emails recently, I thought it timely to send you this one so as not to risk Erik bursting into tears because he thinks nobody likes him anymore. As if that would happen. Erik, don't worry, we all love you lots, and sometimes in a slightly creepy way. Well, that's good. I like that. I've been wondering for a while now what your thoughts are on a potential slasher revival along the lines of what occurred in the wake of Scream back in the late 90s. It seemed for a while there that we might be in for a full-blooded return after the success of the Halloween remake, but that doesn't really seem to have happened, despite the announcement of a further 2 movies in that franchise. Perhaps if Friday the 13th hadn't been tied up in legal limbo, but obviously that wasn't to be. So do you guys think there might be another golden wave of slashers at some point in the future, or do you expect the same steady, slow trickle of, and I don't have sorry, I had the wrong second piece of paper on me. Let me restart that sentence. So do you guys think there will be another golden wave of slashers at some point in the future, or do you expect the same steady, slow trickle of them to continue as we've had even since the mid-nought? Let me start that sentence again. Sorry, God, it doesn't scan properly. It's not my fault. The same steady slow trickle of them to continue. Okay, yeah.
Please keep this in, Joseph. Please keep this in.
It'll go after the show.
People need to know what we put up with.
Oh, shut up, you chalk-faced whores. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Toya wouldn't treat me like this. So do you guys think there might be another golden wave of slashers at some point in the future, or do you expect the same steady, slow trickle of them to continue as we've had since the mid-noughties? Would you like to see another flood of new slashers as we had post-Scream, or are you content with revisiting classics thanks to Blu-ray remastering from the likes of Arrow, 88 and Vinegar Syndrome? Hope you're all staying safe and well. It's great to still have the podcast, and you four keep us all company in these difficult times. Things might get worse before they get better, but at least we can console ourselves that, as bad as it might get, it still won't be as bad as one of Erik's jokes. Lots of Simon Logan.
Simon, you need to listen to the Blob episode, and you can take that back, because Erik
Thank you, Joseph.
told a whopper on that one.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, perhaps this one wasn't the best example on this episode.
Hey.
But what?
I like this one.
The Katya one was good.
To answer his question, though, with the whole C-word thing going on, it almost feels like theaters may not reopen anytime soon.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I'm thinking.
It's really just dependent upon when things get back to normal. And, I mean, to answer his question even further, I'd like to do both. I like to revisit the old classics, and I would like to see a slasher revival of some sort.
I probably get more entertainment by revisiting old classics or discovering old classics. Like, there's still a lot I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. But I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's just I'm more of an 80s person than I am now. So
yeah, and I was kind of looking forward to the Halloween sequels. I'm intrigued to see what they do with them. But now I don't know if
yeah, I'm surprised. It kind of seems that there was a kind of movement towards the small screen slasher, wasn't there? Because now with Netflix you could get away with very gory stuff, and we saw that with the slasher. Literally, the 2 seasons of slasher. I mean, Scream 5 is apparently in gestation, isn't it? I was surprised. I mean, Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2 again felt like they were going to sort of reboot the slash movie a bit, but it hasn't happened. I don't know why. It's almost like people feel like they can't make a straight slasher movie anymore. they have to do something kind of odd with it.
There's got to be like a gimmick or some sort of like underlying subtext.
Exactly,
I just want them to just have jovial blue collar people get picked off by a killer.
Halloween had no gimmicks really.
No, not really.
It was very straightforward slasher action.
Other than that dumb character that should have been left on the cutting room floor.
Yes.
Which one?
The doctor.
Oh, the doctor. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Like you say, I mean, they're dumping quite a lot of stuff or not dumping, but I mean, I imagine they're probably making a tidy profit by putting stuff straight to Netflix or streaming, and they're doing that with some movies, aren't they, at the moment? So again, it depends, but presumably,
like the video store, I think the theater is kind of experiencing a slow death now. It's sad, but it's the way the world is.
Well, it is.
I mean, particularly independent cinemas are probably not going to financially survive this. I mean, the chains probably will. But.
Yeah, but it's funny, isn't it? They were sort of saying that actually the drive-ins have made a bit of a comeback. The ones that are still there because you can socially isolate.
Well, yeah, because you're in your car, so you don't really have to deal with people shoulder to shoulder. So I
never even thought of that. Yeah.
I think it's due for a comeback.
But we never had drive-ins. We never had drive-ins in the UK. I don't think you wouldn't have had them in Ireland either, would you, Erik?
No.
So
we still have one. We still have one here. It's 35 miles from here. As far as I know, it's still open and operational. But I've never been to a drive-in movie ever.
Really?
And I really want to go. Yeah, I really want to go.
Well, maybe one day when we all meet up, we'll do that. Mm-hmm. And remember, if you want to make that happen, then you can send $1 million to the Hysteria Continues at gmail.com.
Surely there's some rich benefactor out there who loves our show and wouldn't mind saying, hey, you know what? Here, you guys deserve a grand, so here you go.
But the big question is, if we all went to the drive-in, which two of us would be making out in the back seat?
You and Justin.
No way! I wasn't joking.
Nathan's not my type.
It'd be you and Nathan.
Nathan's not my type. Justin's too skinny, and Erik, you'd be more like, from what I'm hearing now, you'd be out drinking. You're the new Justin. What? You'd be out drinking somewhere. You're the new Justin.
I am the new Justin. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Erik you'd be drunk, so you'd be easy, wouldn't you? You'd be anyone's for a hot dog.
I don't know what you're saying.
Erik would be at the concession stand getting candy.
Yes.
All the time. Yeah.
So was that everything from Simon Logan?
That was everything from Simon Logan, including his insulting last sentence.
Oh, thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah.
Yes. Well, funny enough, I have a message here from another Simon. It says, "Hello again. Lockdown in New Zealand has prevented me from getting my hands on that Shout Factory My Bloody Valentine Blu-ray for the moment. As tragedies go, it's one of the smaller ones, but if the nation could just take a minute's silence for me is all I ask. No, it's all for the best, and I'd like to say the government here has done a sterling job, despite dismissiveness of that stupid fucking incel I met a few weeks back. Also, self-isolation is fucking brilliant." So it's a potty mouth Simon, this one, but I'm sure our listeners don't mind that. As a junior level slasher movie fan, free streaming service Tubi, which obviously Joseph's talking about, has allowed me to see so many new sick thrills from the 70s and 80s. I've now seen The Driller Killer, Terror Train, Bloody Birthday, The Slayer, and The Mutilator, amongst many other movies. I've been catching up with them. The Mutilator gave me the strangest feeling after, because it's crap and annoying, but I sort of still liked it. The Driller Killer was stunning, although I love Abel Ferreira anyway. The Funeral, what a movie. And The Slayer is a fantastically well-made and surprising movie. Bloody Birthday also is chock full of poor taste. I loved it. I've been cack-handedly reviewing them on my blog. It's a readingfilmsnz.wordpress.com. But you've often said that IMDb is an adequate source. Is an inadequate source for info on these flicks. So I'm wondering where you'll go for your facts. Well, I can't speak for Nathan, but I mean, talking about when I kind of look at sort of in the background of movies, and like when I reviewed them for Hysteria Lives, I mean, quite often when I've got a subscription to a newspaper.com is quite good for digging up old reviews of movies. Variety, of course, would be a fantastic resource, but it's $600 a year to access Variety online archives, which it's too rich for my pockets, unfortunately. But
one thing I want to mention to him real quick is that you can go to Wikipedia. It's not as like IMDb, it's not quite reliable because it's user related, but they do offer sources at the bottom of Wikipedia, which you can, confirm is real. So Wikipedia is obviously a good starting point if you want to look for facts on films.
Yeah. Also, the Internet Archive. If you search for that's got a great. It's got great results. A lot of old magazines, like all the Fangorias, all the Gore Zones, a lot of old magazines have been digitized, are on there for free. So and quite a lot of books as well. So, and also Google Books is worth search, because sometimes some of the books are on there or sections of them. So yeah, it's kind of generally looking around for things. I think Box Office Magazine as well. If you Google there, a lot of their archive is online for free as well. So if you want to look up facts for old movies, but it's not complete. But there's lots of resources out there. So and that's part of the fun, digging deep. But unfortunately, as Nathan isn't here, our archivist of the Hysteria Continues can't tell us where he gets all his information from, IMDb, Wikipedia. But I'm sure we will next time when he's here. So Simon goes on, ploughing through the back catalogue. I'm up to A Night to Dismember. Is it better than Plan 9 from Outer Space? Because that was fuck boring. I've taken a few detours through and kept up with new episodes. May I say, I can't remember which episode it was, but but Diary of the Dead is a really good movie. That movie gets so much flack, and it's so much better than that. Anyway, enough drivel from me. Keep up the great work, you filthy slags. And that's to Erik. And cheers again, Simon Kingsley Holmes. So thank you, Simon. So
thank you, Simon. Kingsley.Holmes.
And that was Reading Films NZ, all in word.wordpress.com. So check that out. So thank you, Simon. And Nathan would have read one out, but as he's not here, he can't. So hopefully next time. So
I can read it out if you want. I have it open here.
Shall we?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from David, and he says, Dear Erik, Joseph, Nathan, and Justin, just wanted to wish you a belated happy anniversary and congratulations on reaching 200 episodes. Looking forward to the 10-year mark, which is not far off now. Yes, it's next January, isn't it? Yeah, I believe. Like a fine wine, the show just gets better with time. I'm also really digging the YouTube delights. On that point, is there any word on a video cast for a future episode? Looking to the future, do you think there will be a time when the Hysteria Continues drinks the slasher well dry? And if so, will the show be offering a sequel, perhaps morphing into a more general horror-based show? Like I Still Know the Hysteria Continues, or the Hysteria Continues 2, Eric's Revenge. Or
I like that. I Still Know the Hysteria Continues. That's clever.
How about this one? Hysteria 2, Electric Cats on the Loo. That's good. Oh, yeah, Electric Cats on the Loo, Electric Boogaloo. Yep. Hope you're all well and getting through these strange lockdown times. All the best from David T, who is the editor of www.filmsfilmsfilms.co.uk. So thank you, David.
Yes, thank you.
So the video cast.
He's a forum member, actually. Yeah, so he's a good guy. The general horror thing, I think we kind of already have with Patreon.
With Patreon, yeah.
Yeah, I think that gives us breathing room to kind of recharge our batteries when we're having to deal with stuff like what Nathan might pick.
But there's still tons of slasher and
I don't foresee us running dry anytime soon on that.
No.
Yeah, and also, of course, let's not forget. I mean, we do worry about a video cast because obviously what happened when on that drunk cast with Erik when he got carried away. The infamous episode. So if that was on a video cast, then it doesn't bear thinking about.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to run out of slashers. I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I think if we did get to the point, to be honest, actually, it's quite often it's more fun reviewing and talking about bad movies than good ones. Quite often.
Like A Blade in the Dark. For example.
So I mean, God knows there's. I mean, I must admit, my heart sinks when I start thinking of some of those kind of post-Scream, straight-to-video slashers, and if we have to cover a load of David Toccoto, funny enough, given what we're covering next. But all of those, the 511 or whatever they call, what are they called? Those ones.
What are they called? 13.
13. Yeah.
Thankfully, I think there's enough out there that we may not ever have to get those films.
I have talked about. I've watched a couple of them just out of curiosity, and they just feel like it's he's not really trying.
Softcore gay porn. It feels like to me, honestly.
Yeah, but which itself isn't a bad thing, but it's kind of. Obviously, it's just kind of nothing. It just feels like they're not campy enough. They're not funny enough. It's just just going through the motions just to fill 90 minutes. It's like programming, basically. It's kind of. I'm not. Doesn't feel like there's any spark there. It's just like literally, let's get through this and do the next one. And so that in itself is not particularly interesting. But who knows? We'll see. But we've got plenty. There's plenty. There's plenty to come. I already know what I'm covering next time, and it's going to be, funny enough, a very Nathan-y pick. I warn you. But talking of next time, Nathan can't announce it. But yes.
Nathan. Let's see if I can do this. Well, next time, guys, we're going to cover a David Dakota movie. It's Dream Maniac from 1986. It's it.
Well, you would know. You should know, Nathan.
Well, I've reverted to my Joseph persona.
Okay. So, well, you're like the killer in Blade in the Dark. You got two personalities.
I am a female.
So does Nathan really sound like Joe Exotic?
I don't know. That's just my version of Nathan. You've all heard how wonderful I am with accents.
You're very good. We're all very good at accents. So. So, well, that was a slightly shambolic episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. We obviously missed our Nathan, but he will be with us next time. So, so what are we playing out with, Joseph?
Under the Blade by Twisted Sister.
Oh, I kind of like Twisted Sister. I don't know that song, though.
No.
It's the early Twisted Sister, I think.
Okay, well, good choice. Thank you for listening to The Hysteria Continues, and I hope
it's totally ripped off Twisted Hysteria.
I am Dee Snider.
Yes. Well, the beautiful Dee Snider. Okay, right. Okay, well, next time we're going to be having a Dream Maniac, and so, join us again on The Hysteria Continues. So, say goodbye to the good people.
Bye. Say goodbye, Nathan.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Steal a flash of light. You know you're not going home tonight. Be it check or switch, doctors are mine. No way to